understandable between both sides.
I
That's what
agree.
that's
Yeah.
what I've learned. That's what I've learned through my whatever you call it, vision loss.
Right, right. Yeah, I've had a lot of guests on this show who have, lost vision later on in life. And I'm not going to tell you that I understand that, Christina, because I cannot, because I was born blind. So
Yes,
I cannot fathom what that must be like. It must be very, very strange to
it
all of
is.
us,
It is because you had to change everything you've already known. It's like going back to being a kid,
basically. Yeah.
going back to being a kindergarten to kindergarten and relearning how to read, write, walk, talk, do stuff. You cook, clean, use the computer, any type of technology. It has to have something with a voice because you can't see it. So you have to relearn everything over again when you already know it. That's the hardest part. And then adjusting to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That adjustment must be very, very, very challenging for people. I mean,
It is.
I had a person who is retired now, but he was working as a correctional officer in a prison.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very, and did you listen to that?
No, I didn't
Oh,
listen to it, but you was telling me about it.
right, right. And I mean, he told a lot of fascinating stories, but one of the it's really sad and it's really interesting, but he lost his vision and then in the end had to retire. But I mean, it's kind of a long, if it interests you, you would have to go back into the podcast menu and find that menu, find those episodes. But if he
Mm-hmm.
had continued to work, if he hadn't become blind, he would have gotten stabbed and would have ended up in a hospital. So, it's really interesting how these things work out in life.
So in turn, him going blind saved his life.
That's kind of what I said. I mean, it's horrible in a sense to think of it that way, but it
I know,
basically
but
is.
we don't know. We don't know where our path's going to lead us. Don't know if we can see or not.
That's true. That's true. So it's just interesting to to think about that. Or the other thing that's really interesting. My guest last night, my episode that I recorded last night, he read a really great verse from the Bible that
Mm-hmm.
basically explains,
Um, faith with faith without sight.
could have been, could have been,
Yeah,
and
that's the main one that they. I think it's Isaiah something. Can't remember the exact verse. If
that
it's
is
the same one.
that is fine. That is fine. And we were just having a conversation about it, about why are there people? Why do we have disability in our world in our society? You know, um,
Mm,
do you have any logical idea to that? Because a lot of students ask me, and I have an
disability.
answer. I have an
Why do we
answer.
have disability?
Yeah.
The
Why
reason
is
we
there?
have because there's stuff that we're okay before we are even born. We're written out a plan. Okay, the plan we don't we don't want to be disabled, but that plan might we might come across something and make us blind or visually impaired or uh impaired, no legs, no whatever. But it's not made to be like that. But it's what it is made where people should make them understand a little bit more. That's why there's disabilities. It makes people look at them, the ones that's disabled, and say, "Wow, if they can do that, I can even do any more. I can do more than they can because I can't."
It's a really it's a really, really good response. A really good answer to why. Yeah. I think and on top of that, your answer is an absolutely brilliant one. It's an absolutely perfect response. On top of it, I would say the other logical reason is to show us that life is not fair and that life is not perfect,
No, it's
and that
not.
But the interesting part about life is that there are all of these imperfections. Because if we were all the same, then it would be pretty boring.
Yes, it
So I
would.
think there
We
are,
all got to be different to make it
and
the
and I
world go
also
round.
and I also think that if we are not able to adapt, if we are not an adaptable, species, an adaptable person, then people will not be able to survive. So we have to have some difference. We have to have some
Yeah. Well,
need to be
look
adaptable.
what we're going through now, the COVID.
Right.
If
Exactly.
we wasn't adaptable, we wouldn't be able to put the face masks on and use the hand sanitizer and go and do whatever they need to do in life
Right.
now, because that's a change
Sure. Sure. A
that nobody
huge.
ever knew that would happen,
Right.
but it did. That's the same in sense what happens when you go blind, when you can see the same thing. You don't know it's going to happen, and
Right.
until along the way it does.
Exactly.
That's that's how it goes. One
Right.
day, one day you can see. Next day, oh my goodness, I need a blindfold to go training because I can't stand the sunlight.
Right.
But you adapt to whatever you need to do if you got enough determination to live. I don't care what it is.
Excellent. So good. So good. Definitely. Yeah, it's all very interesting. Have you done much traveling overseas, by the way?
No, I haven't. I've never been out of the United States.
I see. Yeah, that is fine. Yeah, I've done a lot of traveling in around Europe, Swaziland even, couple places in the Caribbean. So, yeah.
Africa? You been to
Yeah,
Africa?
yes, Swaziland. Yes. Hmm. It's a very, very beautiful country, a very beautiful place.
Very beautiful people. They're so nice and kind. They just want
Definitely.
somebody to help them.
Right. Yeah, it's a very nice place. Yes.
It
Hmm.
is. It is. I've never been, but I've heard a lot about Africa.
Right, right. But that's why I was asking you what countries have you heard of? You have people from Nigeria in your group, but
Uh,
Nigeria is Western Africa. So Swaziland is
yeah,
more on southeastern end. So,
southeastern. Okay, yeah.
hmm.
I don't know if we have any in the group, but I am talking to all parts through the social media.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I hope that I will get some more international guests on this podcast. I've had a couple. I've had
Hmm.
someone from Nepal, I've had England, I've had Germany, I've had Tunisia, but I always strive to try to find guests, overseas. That makes it a stronger podcast and it spreads the podcast around the world.
Yes, you want to be around the world. I understand.
So, hopefully in this group I will be able to maybe find someone who would want to come on, maybe from
Maybe so.
maybe from one of those countries. Hopefully, who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Who
Hmm.
knows? You never know on there.
And how did you come to meet all of these, people from internationally?
Well, I was on looking for a church group because it did I was on this one messaging church group and I was heard there was some on WhatsApp. That's where I found the people and I just so happened you had a message one of the admins was to this which I'm still in. It's called the World Blind Group on WhatsApp and there's a lot of people from Africa in the group and India and you name it, they're there.
Right. Yeah.
And so in the group, you can't private message. So you can go on voice or type and tell them if you want, you can private message me. And that's what I do because I'm a very social person.
Yeah, I've noticed that on WhatsApp, certain groups are getting a lot stricter with that whole issue of private messaging.
That's because they've had a lot of drama in the groups. Is what I'm what I've learned so far. Lots of drama, lots of back and forth about different issues that we can't talk about on here. We'll just say,
Right.
and it's just not enough, no goodness, and they don't want that on there because they want a good platform for good people all
Right.
around the world.
Right. But it's hard. I mean, I do understand that, but it's hard to control even in a WhatsApp group. It's hard
Well,
to have.
that's you have admins. This is how WhatsApp goes. If you have a group, because I have one on WhatsApp too,
Me too. Good.
and it's called Visually Challenged, and I made
Okay,
the name
you're
and
gonna
done.
have to. So I'm gonna be requesting to join. Okay, you didn't tell me you had all these connections. If I
Well,
had known that, now, geez, well, I'm so glad we talked. Now I'm gonna have all these connections now. Wow.
yeah, and so I started that group, and that's I run that, and then I'm in they just asked me to be another one of a social group, um, and then I'm in a church. I'm an admin of a church group over in Africa or somewhere over there. I can't remember exactly where. The name of it's something in Hebrew.
Hmm.
It's something love God or inner. It's networking with other people with God is what it means.
So, sounds good. We have about 3.5 minutes before we end. Do you have any huge, final statements that you want to make on the podcast here?
Um, hmm. Well, I would say, as far as me, you would want. I mean, anybody visually impaired or blind, you want to get in contact with a support group and uh-oh.
Yeah.
You would want to get a support group behind you is the one main thing. Be going into blindness, saying you people that like you, Aaron, has been born blind. You don't know no difference, but the people that's had sight and lost it, they need a great big support group, not just with their family, but sighted people, unsighted people, visually impaired and blind people. They need a big support group, people that's going to help them and talk to them and be there for them, be their friends, no matter what, day in, day out.
Well, that's really good. Yeah. And the other thing is to, ask appropriate questions.
Yes.
Whoops, whoa. Ask appropriate questions. Um, you know, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Goodness, my clock. I have never seen this before. So, listener, my clock changed from one mode to another mode. Wow, that's odd. Yeah, now my clock is all set up differently. It's like it went from a digital to that's kind of cool. It went digital to analog. Well, with that, basically, with all of
That's
that,
funny.
yeah, I didn't know how I did it. That was definitely the strangest thing that I have certainly seen on this phone here. You've been an amazing guest. You've done a magnificent job for someone who has never been on a podcast before. You yourself should really have a podcast. Do you have a podcast?
I have a podcast, but I don't know how to through Anchor, but I don't know how to down. I've never downloaded on it yet. I'm still in the process of trying to figure that out.
Hmm. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have a podcast on Anchor, you should definitely be uploading episodes because um, you're a really good speaker. You have a lot to say, for sure.
Well, thank you, Aaron.
You're very very welcome. All right. Well, basically, that's basically almost all the time we have. Uh, my name my name is Aaron Richmond. This was another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion with Christina Palmer, where we spoke about a lot of interesting issues in the blindness community, from training to gardening to international groups. As I like to say, have a good day today and a great day